Hello and welcome to Prairie Pulse. Coming up later, we'll have hear from area war veterans in their own words, but that's later. Now we have a guest, Sandy or Sandra, which do you go by?
Sandra's fine.
Sandra Leyland, Executive Director of Frasier in Fargo. Sandy, I'm going to call you Sandy. I like that.
That's great. That's great.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and where you're from.
Oh, well, I consider myself to be a North Dakota native, but I was born out on an Army base in Herlong, California. And my parents had roots back in Minnesota and Missouri, so after I was born and my dad was out of the service, we returned here.
Okay. Now, how did you come to be your Executive Director of Frasier? How did you come to be that?
Oh, yeah, I'm really proud to have that title. I had worked with the Fargo school systems. I actually worked at the Evaluation and Training Center. And through that job, I became familiar with the work that Fraser Ltd. Was doing. And so I went to work for them for a short period of time. I ran their residential program, and then I left for a family business for 4 years. And when the position opened up, I applied, and thankfully they were welcome to taking me back, and then I've been thankful ever since.
Now, how long have you been Executive Director?
18 years.
18 years, okay. Well, then let's tell the folks out there, what is Frasier and what do you do?
Well, Frasier's a nonprofit. We're a 501c3. And basically what we do, we have 3 programs, and the one that we're probably the best known for is our program for adults with developmental disabilities. And that particular program serves people with DD, 18 years and older. And that program's run by Renita Quam. She's our director over there, and she has huge responsibility. She oversees the 9 different residences that we have, an apartment building, and our supported living arrangements in the community. Our second program that we are very proud of and actually kind of came upon through strategic planning is our Children's Services Unit. And we, like I said, we started with strategic planning, and what we found through doing some studies on what the needs in the community were is that there were a number of children with special needs that just weren't fitting into regular child care centers, home centers, or anything like that. So we hooked up with someone who was doing this out of her home, and it just kind of grew from there. And today we serve about 180 some students, 6 weeks up through school age. And basically what we've accomplished at this point is as an environment where we help them mentor each other. We've got about 25% of that population with some type of a special need, and along with their typically developing peers, we're able to put together a scenario that works for everyone.
Okay. Well, let's maybe get into a little more detail here. You sort of mentioned this. What are the services that you do provide to the folks who are developmentally disabled?
Well, the Developmental Disabilities Program is one that looks at the residential living needs of individuals with disabilities, primarily developmental. We also have some mental health issues that are found within our population of folks that we support. And independent living training, I guess, would be the best way to describe it. Teaching people something as simple as how to cook, maybe not so simple, but we try to make it that way. How to budget, how to manage their money. We assist with all kinds of medical appointments. Try to basically give them the supports that they need to be independent.
Okay. Well, and we're going to talk more about some of your other programs, but we're going to back up a few years anyway.
Okay.
Talk about the experiences in the mid-'70s when you volunteered, I guess, at Grafton State School and how this affected you.
Oh, you know, there's so many ways, so many ways to answer that question, and I was thinking about it, and you know, I think the best thing I can do just to give you a feeling for what it was like was to tell you a story. I was there when I was very young. I was a college student, and I was really trying to find a career path, and this became an opportunity. And I don't think it was until I was actually the executive director at Frasier that it hit me what was going on in that institutional setting. And I had been on board, excuse me, I'd been on board for probably 2 years, and we had a funeral, and I was attending a funeral for one of the people that we were supporting. And this particular individual had come to us straight from the state school, and the only living relative that he had was his father. And as his dad and I are standing at the casket, I'm trying to, in my young years, trying to come up with some type of comfort for him. And this big burly guy reached over and grabbed my hand and looked me in the eye and said, "I never knew my son, and they told me this is where I had to put him." And I think at that particular time I realized the impact of institutionalizing people had not only on the individual but on their family members. And I think it also pointed out that, back then, and maybe not so much today, but certainly a few years ago, we really looked at people with disabilities as the disability first rather than the individual.
Yeah. Well, let's back up maybe a few more years.
Okay.
In elementary school now. So, I read something about you taking care of the kids at the end of the hall.
I was one of those students. I was 11 years old, and I was one of those people that the teachers used to pull out of the classroom for projects. And I think it was a good thing. I was fortunate to go to an elementary school that had special needs kids, or back then we said kids with mental retardation, at the end of the hall. And so I was exposed to a number of different things on a day-to-day basis. And I'm talking things about the treatment of the student by the other kids. They weren't out in the playground with us. And if they were isolated. Just the way even the staff, the educators would interact with these special needs kids or the kids at the end of the hall was not something you'd see in today's life. And I think it had a direct impact on a career choice.
That's interesting. But and we'll come back to what we were talking about earlier. You're talking about that independent living. Can you talk about what you do or how you help your clients live independently or as independently as possible?
Well, our mission is to support people on their life's journey towards independence. And whether it's our program for adults with disabilities, our Children's Center, or our recent Stepping Stones Resource Center, what we try to do is look at the person as an individual. And, it's a process, and it requires a team of professionals and a team of family members that come together and try to build support so that people are included in society rather than segregated. It's a nasty word, but it's true. We spent a number of years hiding people away. And even when people came out of institutions and went into group homes, there still was a big leap to actually get to the point where communities were accepting and people weren't afraid. They were understanding that these are individuals with the same needs, desires that we all have.
Well, then, can you talk a bit about, I know you said from all the terms you might not, but about 1976, a lawsuit that sort of changed things on how people with disabilities were treated in this state?
Yeah, and again, there's a very long answer to that, but I think what maybe listeners would be interested in knowing is that they should be real proud of their state. We took the right steps. Unfortunately, it took a lawsuit to get us there, but it provided for a lot of service providers in the state of North Dakota to rise to the occasion and really provide quality and raise the bar. We're all accredited across the state, and I think we have quite a good reputation nationwide. In talking with the people that come in and do the national accreditation, they always seem to highlight North Dakota as a model of how people with disabilities should be treated.
Well, that is good. So where are your group homes in the area, and tell us about how you go about setting up clients in their living quarters?
Well, we have a referral system through the state of North Dakota. We have homes in West Fargo and South Fargo and a very large apartment building where we integrate with just regular people in the community, regular citizens. And again, it goes back to the team approach, looking at the individual. Is this a person who's best suited for some type of a supported living arrangement, someone who can actually make it on their own with minimal supports? So we do assessments. We talk with families, we talk with professionals. We come together. We're a unit. We're not an island. We couldn't do what we do without the help and the assistance of the different people in our community.
Yeah. Now, at these different homes, are there different levels of independence? I may not be asking that right, but do you have to work? Are there certain homes that work with, I guess, bigger disabilities than others? Or
it's a great question. It really is, and we try not to put together a setting where everyone has epilepsy or everyone has a behavioral issue or a mental health issue or something like that. However, unfortunately or fortunately, I guess, however you want to look at it. There are specific locations that do serve specific needs, and one in particular is we have an eating disorders home, primarily serving people with Prader-Willi syndrome, and that is kind of a unique population of people to serve. I think there's very few around the United States, and at one point there were less than 2,000 people that were actually diagnosed with the syndrome. So it's something we've been doing for the last 20 plus years, and we're doing it very well.
Okay. And you say there's still a stigma for people on how to deal with people with disabilities. Can you talk about that some?
Sure. You know, I think that what it comes down to is people tend to fear what they don't know. So understanding a disability, a cognitive disability, or a mental health issue, bipolar, and 67% of our folks, by the way, do have some type of a dual diagnosis. So we've really been kind of forced into having to have a broader understanding of disabilities than just a developmental one. We basically are looking at trying to address that issue through our Speakers Bureau. We have a very large group of professionals on staff that will go out into the community and help people become more comfortable with this. They speak to different service groups. We work very closely with families, school systems, anyone that we can offer a hand to, I guess, in understanding the population that we work with.
What about a family understanding that their child has a disability?
We'll sure try. We'll sure help. There's tremendous resources out there right now for something like that. I think your medical models are a great start. I mean, at one point in our history, it was the medical model that was putting the child away. And I think they're now looking at this and seeing that it's not necessarily the right thing to do for anyone that's involved. So I think that's a good place for a person who has a child that has a disability from the onset of birth. We have tremendous supports through our human service centers around the state of North Dakota. There are a lot of private professionals that can help with that. And just at our children's center, at our child care center, we've got staff on board that will help parents walk through all of the different roadblocks that they're going to encounter.
Okay. Well, then let's turn to your child care center again. You've mentioned it a couple of times here. Tell us more about it.
You know, I think I mentioned that there are 180 youth that attend. It was through a strategic planning effort, and it's something that just seems to be growing day by day. We have a waiting list, and of course we're wanting to serve more than we possibly can. But I think the thing that I really would like to share with you is, because it's an integrated child care center, you have a dual or a double mentorship going on there with the kids. Not only are the kids with the disability or the special need learning from the typically developing child, I think that typically developing child is actually learning back again through the experiences that they have at the center every day, what it's like, diversity, taking a look at how do I deal with people that are different than me.
And do kids at the center have to have special needs?
No, and that's truly important. I think the beauty and the success of our program is the fact that we keep it, we keep a very low percentage of children who need special assistance with things, because we want it to be as natural as it possibly can, and give everybody a really good experience.
Well, okay, and then you have a summer camp, I understand.
We do. We have a skill enhancement training program, and that's been around for about 9 years. Actually came to our attention through a request of a local teacher. And what we tried to do in the early days, and why it was even an issue for us was, or for the community, was we had students who had individualized education plans, or IEPs, and they would be done with school in May, and they wouldn't start up again until late August, September, and you had that 3-month gap. And a lot of these students were people who didn't necessarily have peer groups. They maybe had some mental health issues of their own, along with some learning disabilities. And we really found that through this summer camp, we were able to kind of bridge that gap. And so we were able to kind of take over where the IEP left off and support them so they could sustain the goals and the objectives that they had been working on all year until they re-entered school. And surprisingly enough, through that 7-year process, the initial 7 years, what we were finding is kids were coming back year after year, and they were graduating out of our program, only there was no place for them to go. That kind of got us started working with transition age youth. We took a look and decided through, again, some strategic planning efforts that this was something that really should be addressed. So Stepping Stones Resource Center, or SSRC as we call it, was established through a lot of work with a lot of people in the community.
Okay. So, and that opened about a year ago or so?
Opened up about a year ago, and the Resource Center is located down on 2902 South University, and it's for any youth between the ages of 14 and 21 who has some basic needs that they need to have filled. And I'm talking things like food, clothing. We're going to be looking at some potential shelter for these folks. We were very fortunate to hire Christopher Johnson, a student up at NDSU who's working on his doctorate. He's collecting some tremendous data that we're going to be able to go back to the North Dakota legislature with and area foundations to garner some financial support so that these kids are not necessarily at risk of falling through the cracks on a day-to-day basis. And I think it's not only are they at risk of incarceration, they're at risk of homelessness. And we were talking about Fargo before we started taping here, and I think that Fargo's now at a size where homelessness for youth has become an issue. And I think it's difficult for our community to get their arms around that to some respect. Since the center's been open this past year, we're finding there are a tremendous number of youth that are trying to access our adult shelters, and that's not necessarily a good place for them. And these are kids that are from all walks of life. You may have someone who's lived with a family for all of their life. That you may be referring to someone who's on the run. You could be talking about someone who's coming through the foster care system, but inevitably they all have the same basic needs. And right now that's what SSRC is trying to accomplish for them.
Okay. Now, how many employees does Frasier have?
Oh, we have just under 300 employees. We've grown, and in fact, we just hired a human resource person, so I'm delighted to report that. It made me feel 10 years younger. But anyway, no, we're getting to be quite large, and primarily the bulk of our people are direct support professionals. We depend real heavily upon them, and they do a wonderful job. And I'm very thankful to the North Dakota legislature, who last session recognized the need and the value of those folks and helped us out with some very nice increases.
Well, with that then, can you talk about how you are funded?
Well, the adult program for developmental disabilities is primarily funded through the state of North Dakota, the Department of Human Service Center. We get I think it's about 60% of our budget is covered through the Department of Human Services, and the rest of that we make up through donations. We write a lot of grants, go to area foundations. Our child care center is primarily through tuition, donations, the typical type of thing, and then with the SSRC, that's a new one, and that's the one that we're really focusing on right now. Looking at some type of a potential capital campaign to try and pull that together so that program can continue.
And my understanding is you're one of the oldest organizations, service organizations in Fargo. Over 100 years?
We're over 100 years, you bet.
Talk about how it was founded?
Well, yeah, I sure will. We, by charter, we're the oldest in North Dakota. We like to claim that. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but we've been around a while, and I tease some of my board members, they've been around almost as long, but it actually started out as the Florence Crittenden Home back in 1893. And this was through a gentleman out of New York who had a daughter named Florence. His name was Charles. And he came out and he set up homes like the Florence Crittenden Home in honor of his daughter throughout the United States. So the big old three-story building on South University that everyone knows as, quote, Frasier Hall, was originally Florence Crittenden Home for Unwed Mothers.
Okay. Now, volunteers use them at Frasier as well?
We do. Volunteers will do internships. They're real vital to what we're doing. We were a little hesitant in the early years. It was difficult to bring volunteers in off of the street whenever there was an issue going on with behavior or something like that in one of our homes. But since we've kind of branched out a little bit, we're finding that they really are the key to getting things done around the organization. So we welcome them.
Well, if people want to be involved or if people want more information about Frasier, where's the best place to go?
I'll probably call our front desk, 232-3301, and Teresa is our receptionist. She'll forward you to wherever you need to go, and we look forward to those calls.
Well, Sandy, thanks so much for joining us today.
Oh, thanks, John. Appreciate it.
Stay tuned for more. Let's now go to Perham, Minnesota, where Leen takes us on a tour of an interactive museum centered around the oral histories of area war veterans.
Welcome to the ITOW Veterans Museum in Perham, Minnesota. This is a very unique museum that is based on the oral histories and the recorded stories of area veterans. My name is Lina Ballar. I'm the Executive Director of the Friends of the History Museum of East Otter Tail County. Most of these exhibits are very interactive. We have videos that you can watch that will just be repeating over and over again. We also have touch screens so you can choose different people to listen to. So it's a way to make it even more personal experience of the tour. And it's also a way to make it different every time that you come, because you're not going to experience everybody's exhibit the first time through. So you can come through many times and hear different stories all the time. What you'll hear is stories from area veterans from all walks of life and all eras, from World War II, from World War I, from Vietnam, and even the Cold War era and Korea, telling you what it was like for them when they went to join the military or when they went into battle for the first time.
Another friend of mine went down to St. Paul and we took her physicals. I passed that he had a spot in the lung when the Army would take him.
Because we're in a rural area, I think that experience is much more apparent and much more intimate than if you're often in an urban area where maybe things can happen next door you don't even know about. In a rural area, everybody sort of knows everybody, and I think that made it a different experience in terms of design. Many, many people in the community and the town supported it, and also the state. We were able to get some state funding and eventually get some federal funding for it, because these are stories that transcend just what happens in Perham, Minnesota. The interviews come from people from probably 60 to 100 mile radius, but their stories are very universal, because even if it wasn't your father that served in the Battle of the Bulge that you see, whose story you hear, perhaps you know someone who did. And I've had people come through and say, now I know what my father would have told me had he lived to tell me. And so it becomes an experience that throughout the whole nation, people can relate to these stories because you knew someone who did have that experience. So we started collecting oral histories, and we worked on that for a number of years and got some additional funding to broaden our base so that we were able to record more than just the local veterans, but spread out a little further through the state, and also to do a project recording women and their experiences not only in the military but also on the home front. 2004, we're still thinking about where we might have this kind of museum, and the VFW suggested that we use the existing VFW building as a museum. So then we began actually doing the physical plans to put that together and create what you see today. So when it came down to designing the Veterans Museum, we have a local architect that has done a great job with looking at ideas for the exterior and also some of the things on the interior. We opened the museum in the August of 2006, and we continued to make additions and additional exhibits to the museum. And of course, in our big gallery, we have a documentary that plays all day, every hour on the half hour. But in addition to that, it's also a space where we have traveling exhibits. Perhaps you had a relative who served in World War II, but they never told you their stories. And when you come here, you'll get an idea of what it was that they carried around in their heads and their hearts their whole life, and perhaps weren't able to tell you. Each one of these men and women, they've served, and they've served without question. Not because they wanted to, or they wanted anybody else to do it, but because it had to be done. One of the great things about this museum in terms of providing a service to the public, I think it also provides a service for veterans, because the chance to tell their story is as a healing experience as well. And I think it's a way to help heal not only veterans, but the communities too, to understand what people go through to preserve their freedoms.
Well, that's all we have on Prairie Pulse for this week. And as always, thanks for watching.